All right, let's jump right into it. Today, we're looking at a paper that flips a huge question on its head. What if the real key to ending sexual exploitation isn't about new laws, but about new economics? We're going to dive into how real foundational economic security could, maybe, dismantle the very system that allows sex trafficking to even exist. And to really get why this economic angle is so critical, let's start with a number that should honestly stop you in your tracks. 40%. In the US, Black women and girls account for 40% of all confirmed sex trafficking cases. But they're only about 7% of the population. That's not just a statistic, it's a blaring signal of a deep systemic problem.
And as the source material makes crystal clear, that problem, that vulnerability is fundamentally about money. This quote, man, it just gets right to the heart of the whole argument. For most people, this isn't some simple choice. It's a decision made under the crushing weight of survival, when every other door has been slammed shut.
So that leads us to this first big idea, what the paper calls the coercion foundation. For years, the whole debate has just been circling around different legal approaches, but the authors argue that all of them, every single one, kind of misses the point if they don't first deal with this bedrock of economic desperation. I mean, think about it, right? Criminalization just pushes everything into the shadows and makes a dangerous situation even more violent. Decriminalization? It's a good step, but it doesn't pay the rent or put food on the table. And hey, even full-on legalization can feel like coercion if your only other option is being out on the street. The common thread here, the thing that ties all these failures together, is that none of them give people a real, genuine choice. Okay, so if the old ways don't work, what's the alternative? Well, the paper proposes something way more ambitious. This next section introduces a radical idea, completely replacing what they call an exploitation infrastructure with a new liberation infrastructure. The whole goal is to make exploitation basically impossible by making it totally unnecessary. Okay, that name is a mouthful, I know, but the ideas behind it are actually pretty simple, and they build on each other. So first, at the very bottom, you've got CCO. Think of it like a universal basic income that gives everyone a financial floor to stand on. Building on top of that is PTH, which makes sure there's stable, community-owned housing. Then you have CIP, which gives people who are usually ignored a real voice in policy and a safe way to report exploitation. And finally, SCZH, which is a really smart way to shift police resources away from busting sex workers and toward hunting actual traffickers. See? Each piece builds a foundation of safety and real choice. And this all hinges on a really powerful idea they call the autonomy threshold. Basically, the paper argues you can't truly make a free choice about your life or your body if you're up at night worrying about where you're going to sleep or how you're going to eat. It's only when your basic survival is totally guaranteed that you can start making decisions based on what you want to do, not what you're forced to do. Now, here's the cool part. This isn't just some theory they cooked up. For our third section, we're going to look at how the researchers actually modeled what would happen if this whole economic security framework was put into place. They ran the numbers, testing it against the three main ways we currently deal with sex work: criminalization, decriminalization, and legalization. And what's really, really interesting here is how much everything improves no matter what. Just adding economic security is like a rising tide that lifts all boats. You see trafficking and violence just plummet. Meanwhile, the chances of someone successfully leaving the industry and of prosecutors actually winning trafficking cases, they soar. But just look at that final column. Legalization, when it's combined with economic security, consistently blows the others out of the water. Yeah, the data is pretty undeniable. There's a clear winner here. For our fourth section, let's really focus in on this optimal outcome. Because when you combine a foundation of economic freedom with a regulated, legal framework, things don't just get a little better, the positive effects actually multiply. And this next slide shows you just how massive that impact really is. And this chart, wow, it just brilliantly illustrates the long-term impact. And net social value isn't just about taxes. It's the whole shebang. The total economic benefit from lower healthcare costs, less crime, and all the economic activity from people who are no longer trapped in cycles of exploitation. We're talking about trillions with a T, trillions of dollars in societal well-being. All right, but wait a minute. There's a big obvious question here, right? A potential flaw in the whole plan. The paper even calls it the supply reduction paradox. If you give people better options so fewer of them choose sex work voluntarily, doesn't that just create a vacuum that traffickers are going to rush to fill with people they've coerced? It's a fair question. But here's the elegant, almost genius solution that's built right into the system. So yes, the incentive for traffickers might go up a little bit. But, and this is a huge but, at the exact same time, that SCH component we talked about frees up a massive amount of law enforcement resources. We're not talking a little bump, we're talking a 600 to 900% increase in the capacity to fight trafficking. You're basically creating more cops to chase fewer, much more obvious criminals. The paradox, it just dissolves. So when you put it all together, what kind of future are we looking at? In our final section, we get to see the picture the paper paints. It's a future built on choice, where the entire dynamic of exploitation is just flipped on its head. A future that's defined not by desperation, but by having real, genuine options. And this number might be the most powerful projection of all. Under that optimal model, economic security plus legalization, the researchers project a 90% reduction in trafficking vulnerability. Think about that. You're not just rescuing victims one by one anymore. You're dismantling the very machine that creates them in the first place. So if you take away just one thing from all this, it should be this profound shift in thinking. Instead of getting stuck in the weeds, arguing about which legal model is a little bit better than another, the paper argues that the real work, the most important work, is building an economic foundation so strong that exploitation just can't find a crack to get into. And the paper leaves us with this powerful thought. The systems that create all this vulnerability, they were designed by people, which means that systems that create liberation can also be built by people. The tools are there, the evidence is laid out. The only thing left to ask is, will we have the will to actually choose it?